Doubles and coffee. I hope you all paid attention to the Joint Select Committee on State Enterprises yesterday. Whenever you see a Pnm, run them. Whenever you hear a Pnm, close your ears. Did you all hear? And it wasn't an entire discussion, just 2 hours and 26 minutes. And imagine the Pnm and Foster Cummins. Foster Cummins, who thought he was going to be the next leader of the Pnm, who had gotten a graphic designer to do a logo for him and was building up a caucus in the Pnm to move after Rowley to take over the Pnm to potentially be the Prime Minister of this country. It wasn't enough that he, Foster Cummins, and companies associated with him previously and with his family members, his wife, his children, and so on. Foster Cummins, yesterday, it came to light once again that even, forget HDC, forget $250,000 to cut grass in Couva, forget 500 million in contracts, that Foster Cummins at MTS, and he tried to pretend that somehow it was okay if you don't go up for electoral politics. So he was trying to differentiate between being a senator in the government of Trinidad and Tobago and being a minister and an MP duly elected. There's no difference. When you're in the government and you're in a decision-making position and you take an oath to do well, properly, by manner, to all manner of man without fear or favor, to do your job, to uphold the Constitution, which means that the resources of the country must be utilized for the masses, for the most, that there should be equity in distribution and opportunity for all. Foster Cummins and his family, $500 million, $500 million in work for his family, and he's still there swearing on the Bible to be a Pnm senator in opposition now, waiting and hoping for a next go around. But yesterday, when asked, the new chairman and board of MTS, and when permanent secretaries were asked about a situation that existed and has existed and police supposed to be investigated, where companies associated with Foster Cummins, and then he came out just before election or just after election in 2020, he took himself off of being a director because he went into, as he says, electoral politics to go up for the Lauketa Talparo seat. But just before the election in 2020, there were companies that Foster Cummins was associated with. Pical Services, Cummins and Associates, Riverlet Investment Group, that were doing contracts and had won contracts with MTS. Remember, the chairman of MTS was Rowley Gill, Rowley campaign manager from since he's small. And the weird and funny thing is why also Venture Credit Union has questions to answer. That there were payments that were due to these companies for work done, for goods and services provided. Okay. But the payments did not go from MTS to the company, to Pical Services or to Cummins and Associates or to Riverlet Investment Group. It didn't go there. The payments went directly to Venture Credit Union, meaning that the MTS Finance Department, the MTS Board, the MTS CEO, the MTS whoever in charge of making payments, authorized payments to be made to Venture Credit Union, even though MTS had no contract whatsoever with Venture Credit Union. When I asked permanent secretaries in general if this followed any sort of financial rules, procurement, transparency, accountability, process to preserve taxpayers' money, each and every permanent secretary said they had never seen that before. And if you understand procurement, and issuance of state contracts and the process for payment and so on, you would know how corrupt it is, how wrong it is, how criminal it is, how fraudulent it is for a state agency to pay another agency that of which it has no contract with. And how did Venture Credit Union accept payment from MTS to the tune of some 4.1 million, some 1.8 million? How did the money even enter Venture Credit Union accounts? Anytime you have accounts, and then especially if you're a person in public life, you want to deposit a check. Even I get an accident and the insurance, I have to do a check to fix my car, and they put the check in my name. I have to fill out form and say what the hell this check is for, and I have to say, well, accident here, reported them, damage here, put in the bumper, the sensors, the thing, the tower, whatever I have to fix. Then the insurance paid. You have to put that. You can't just deposit that. But Venture Credit Union took the money, even though they had no contract and did not deserve any payment from MTS. And then those funds, Foster Cummins admitted, went into his personal account to pay off a loan that he took from Venture Credit Union for $14.5 million. His personal account. As a Pnm senator in the government of the Pnm between the period of 2016 to 2020, and then he went on to go up a la Hakita Talparo and then be a minister in the Pnm government. But Venture Credit Union, MTS, the Pnm board, there's a forensic audit that starts at the end of January here. Well, the police have to understand that they have to do their job. People keep asking me, Anil, why you don't lock them up? Why a government, the executive, cannot charge people, we could just provide information to the relevant authorities. Those who are in charge of charging is the police, the FIU, the fraud squad, the anti-corruption bureau, the DPP. Them have to do their work. I just could bring the information that when asked, permanent secretaries could not believe what I was asking them. They had never heard of such a thing, that a company will be contracted by a state agency, but the money will be paid elsewhere to a financial institution and then entering the personal account of a government senator, and then a government minister who became a government minister who's still there, who want to lead the Pnm. Then the Pnm will come and ask you, what the UNC doing? Why they under pressure? They're desperate for revenue. Another thing that came out in the Joint Select Committee yesterday with MTS is that MTS is owed $850 million. By whom? By other state agencies and ministries, which meant, for example, Gatsby Dolly, who talking and playing, she attacking Roger Alexander, the Minister of Defense, who's responsible for crime and murder and serious crimes going down 42%, the greatest drop in the last 30 years. Roger Alexander's job is to keep we safe. We are 42% safer with Roger Alexander than with the Pnm. We are safer under his policies and his leadership. And this Gatsby Dolly talking about he need to learn to talk. Gatsby Dolly, you need to learn to keep your mouth where it's supposed to be. You need to learn to not go down on red couch and then foster relations with other people and cause bacchanal in a cabinet. That's what you need to do. But you need to also answer Gatsby Dolly. $450 million that the Ministry of Education owes MTS. Why was that not paid? Why did you not pay your bills? What was the problem? Why did you not alert the population? Why have you left the Ministry of Education in this dire straits to find now to move forward when the UNC is there and we want to move forward and spend money on creative new ways to educate our children and to provide opportunities? We are saddled with the debt that you couldn't pay. You incompetent buffoon, Nyan Gatsby Dolly. Answer that. Don't go talking with your arrogant accent. Why did you not pay your bills? The Pnm did not pay the bills. The Pnm owes across the board, and it's state to state, one hand to the next hand, and they could do nothing because the person who's in charge of all of that and disbursement of funds and allocation is the Minister of Finance at that time, called Imbert. Imagine Marvin Gonzalez in the Joint Select Committee yesterday had to say that non-payment of bills by the government was a perennial problem. But he was in the government that caused the perennial problem. The perennial problem for Trinidad and Tobago is the PNM. They men just talking with a straight face and don't realize that they must accept responsibility. So in HDC, $1 billion owed. In MTS, 850 million owed. In Ministry of Education, 450 million owed. CPEP, Faris and the board went and approved expenditure of $1.8 billion without cabinet approval. What happened with that? Don't worry, Anand Ramlogan behind that. URP goes all over the place. Look, PNM have a 70th anniversary of the PNM and can't even fill half Napa because people have realized that the PNM is dishonest. The PNM is pathological. The PNM is corrupt. The PNM is greedy. The PNM is selfish. The PNM is wicked. The PNM is a set of thief. And them standing up in your face, them still going, looking for a next wrong of thief. And they just call corruption on other people because they know what they do. They know what their heart is. They know what their soul is. They know what their spirit is. They know what's in their mind. Foster Cummings still there, you know. And he go in the Senate later on today, and he goes put on suit and sit down there, you know. And then play, he go in and dance in church, you know. But to the police, all you do, all your work. The information is there. Permanent secretaries are confused. They don't know what I'm talking about. How is that possible that on the eve of an election, millions of dollars of taxpayers' money would find its way into the personal account of a PNM bigwig, a PNM senator, a PNM member of the government, even though there was no contract for any work for that money to reach there. And imagine Venture Credit Union, an institution that requires trust for people to deposit their money there, that they could get a fair shake, that is supposed to run on rules and procedure. How did Foster Cummings even qualify for that $14.5 million loan? And MTS, Jackie Lazarus, Rowley Gill, Jackie Lazarus, the police will come knocking. How did you authorize that payment? The board members of MTS, all you like to talk about other people, how did you authorize the payment to Venture Credit Union? And that money found its way into Foster Cummings' personal account to handle and to pay down his loans that he borrowed $205,720 per month. And then the rest went in $1.8 million, $4 million before an election. What was that money for? Why did it come out of the coffers of MTS into a PNM bigwig account? Police, you all have to do your job. The permanent secretaries weren't shocked. They couldn't understand what I was saying. Foster Cummings and Marvin run. They knew I was coming there because I said you had to recuse yourself. I have questions to answer with MTS, that you had a relationship with MTS, that companies associated with you got contracts and were doing work with MTS, and there were questions to answer. He tried to battle, but John Jeremy, the Attorney General, put forward such a strong case that he had to sit down there and stay quiet. There was a little bomb scare or fire scare or something, the alarm went off, and then them PNM run for the hills. When the thing come back in, you can't see Foster, you can't see Marvin, and them want to ask you to vote for them. Ask them where they run. Ask them why they run. Because they knew that I was coming. Because I told them, I didn't come to blindside. I tell them openly. I said, Foster Cummings, you have to recuse yourself from this MTS part, because I have questions to ask that involve you and your family companies, Pical Services, Cummings and Associates, and Irregular Investment Group, Venture Credit Union, Hayden Ferreira. You have questions to answer. Police, do all your work. The people want action. All the information there, how the money reached in Foster account, how it reached in Venture Credit Union, why the Jackie Lazarus and the MTS and the PNM pay that money over there, why did they not pay it to Irregular Investment Group or to Pical Services or to Cummings and Associates as is the norm? Why on the eve of an election in 2020 did that occur? Police, the people want answers. Foster, you should be a zone of special operations. Bless.